What is up guys, Eric here from Real Film Reviews bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Jesse Eisenberg film, American Ultra. American Ultra is directed by Neema Nourizadeh of Project X fame, and it stars Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart, and Topher Grace. The story of American Ultra is Jesse Eisenberg plays a pothead who is secretly a sleeper cell agent for the CIA, but he doesn't know it, and then he gets awoken, kind of, and it turns into this trying to be a comedy, action, psychological film that actually turned out to be kinda good, but not for the reasons that you would really expect it to be. Now, American Ultra is being advertised as this action comedy where it's mostly comedy and then there's action thrown in there, but it's kind of the exact opposite. I laughed very few times at this movie, less than a handful of times. But Jesse Eisenberg was still very good in the movie, and the movie was actually a pretty interesting story with a strange spin. It had a much heavier action vibe than it did anything. I didn't feel like this movie was even really an action comedy. I felt like it was just a light, psychological action movie, and this movie was sort of an enigma to me because I don't know what genre it fits into. It falls into all these different genres, sort of. It feels like it was supposed to be a comedy, but then it didn't work out, and they still advertise it that way, which is why I'm worried this movie's gonna get real bad reviews because of that, because I think the advertisement is showing this movie to be like this hilarious comedy with Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart and Eric Foreman, Topher Grace is this CIA agent, when really it's not funny at all. John Leguizamo stars in this movie for a few minutes, he's in it for less than 15 minutes, and he's the funniest part of this movie. I laughed at him 2 out of the maybe 4 times I laughed at this whole movie. Now that being said, I didn't hate American Ultra. I thought it was pretty decent. Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart were really good. I really liked Jesse Eisenberg's character. I thought he was a super interesting character, and the way they built him and gave him backstory and all these other situations that they put him in where you kind of see these flashbacks of things that he went through was really interesting and a strange thing to do in a movie like this, but it actually worked pretty well to me. Now this is where the things that I say that are pros are going to get weird for you people that think this movie is a comedy, because this movie's blood effects are actually pretty great. Most of this movie uses real blood squibs, which is something that we're seeing less and less of in Hollywood, and it's really sad because if you use real blood squibs, it looks really good compared to CGI blood that looks super fake to anyone that is paying attention to it. Most people can watch a movie with CGI blood and kind of just wave it off and not notice it. But me, if I see CGI blood in your movie, I immediately give you a lower grade because to me it just feels cheap because it looks cheap. Where this movie, there were a couple shots that used not real blood squibs, but for the most of the movie they were using blood squibs, and any shot where the violence was a clear aspect of the scene, they used a blood squib because they knew that people were going to see it and they'd know. The sad part about this to me is that the director of this movie has only ever directed Project X, which is a comedy about kids who throw a massive house party, and somehow he's getting blood more right in his action comedy than most of the actual action directors are at this time. The other pros I have for this movie is it was a cool story and it was a good idea for a movie. I think that it was executed fairly well. Now, in terms of cons, Topher Grace in this movie is horrible. He plays this CIA supervisor, and you're supposed to be afraid of Topher Grace. Well, at the same time, I feel like that's supposed to be kind of a joke in the movie, hey, it's Topher Grace, you're not supposed to be scared, but we're gonna put him in these situations where he yells at characters and you're supposed to act like you actually feel like that character should be scared. No one's scared of Topher Grace. No one. Nobody is. I don't know if I'd consider this a con, but this movie isn't really a comedy, even though it's being advertised in one, which I think the advertising is a con on this movie, because people will be going in with the wrong expectations for what they'll get out of this film. There were some moments in the movie that did use CGI that didn't really look all that great, and then the other con is that there weren't that many jokes. For a movie that's being advertised as a comedy, it doesn't even have that many lines that seem like they're supposed to be jokes that just fell flat. It just doesn't feel like there were even jokes written in this movie. It's just a weird combination of genres to use when you have an Oscar-nominated actor as talented as Jesse Eisenberg to throw him into this weird enigma of a film that doesn't really feel like it even knows where it's supposed to be going. It was a fun movie that was just marketed completely wrong. I feel like it's going to get bad reviews because of that fact. I think people will go in with the wrong expectations and then say they hated the movie. It wasn't a great film, but it also wasn't horrible. I personally enjoyed the movie on the fact that it actually had pretty decent action in it, and I thought Jesse Eisenberg gave a pretty good performance. I'm going to give American Ultra a B-. It just kind of felt weird throughout the movie because it didn't feel like the tone knew where it was supposed to be within the script. It was a cool story with good action, and I'd recommend it to anyone that wants to go see a pretty cool action movie with a pretty interesting storyline. Other than that, don't go see this movie if you're expecting some pothead comedy, because that is basically the exact opposite of what this film is. As always guys, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of American Ultra. Check out everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.